Welcome back, viewers at home. Yes, joining us right here on Prime Live, and we're speaking all things mental health awareness program for teens as well as pre-teens. And my guest tonight, who goes by the name of Norleen Zulu, an early childhood development specialist and the driving force behind the innovative Mind Mentors mental health support program, is joining me tonight to showcasing her dedication of empowering young learners to navigate the complex challenges of adolescence and to promote positive mental health in disadvantaged communities, because from time to time we understand that not everybody has access to a therapist, not everybody knows a local or a psychologist within their locality, and I think this is something that is quite commendable. And I think with that we'll see a unique blend of expertise and compassion. She is transforming the education landscape and making a lasting impact in or on the lives of young people. Nolene, thank you so much for joining us and good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on the program.
Now, for viewers at home who are not so familiar about the program and the beautiful work that you're doing, can you just first start us off by giving us an insight in terms of what made you or what inspired you to create this program?
Okay, sure. So, mental health issues or mental health awareness is always directed at adults, and always overlooks children, teens, and preteens. And obviously, there's a rise in issues of mental health with children, suicide issues, depression, anxiety, and with these growing mental health issues, I felt passionate about helping children, reaching them in the early years, helping them to navigate their emotions, build social and emotional awareness so that our children are prepared and equipped for the world that they live in.
And it's quite important because when they go out in the world and existing with people of different kinds of, whatever issues they're faced with, I think it becomes easier for them to show compassion rather than saying, okay, why is this person like this? And, calling each
Mm.
other out in a very not so compassionate way. But with that being said, how would you best describe the components of the program itself, and how are you going about addressing sensitive topics like that of self harm and suicide?
Okay, so the components of the program really focus on life skills for children,
Okay.
but looking at their mental health, right? So we're looking at emotional intelligence, we're looking at resilience training, we're looking at developing healthy habits on dealing with stress and issues, and also how to tackle the challenges that children may face. Okay, so I think basically how we deal with the sensitive issues is because the facilitators are trained. The program is informed by psychologists, so we create a safe space for children to be able to express their feelings and to go through half or to openly explore half the things they go through, building social etiquette, so to speak, building self awareness, self concept, self acceptance, self love, because I think that at the core of it is what is challenged by mental health issues.
Hmm. That is quite lovely. And with that being said, I think with every program, it's imperative to understand its impact so that you know that do I need to, pivot, or do I need to, sort of evaluate and reassign certain things. I want to know from you, how are you measuring impact, and how do you receive feedback to, also improve in that sense?
Okay, so to measure our impact, basically we're using surveys, we are using peer forms that they will fill in, we're using program reviews, and we're looking at the trends that are happening. So using like a trends barometer that informs us on all the social economic issues that impact the children, how social media is affecting the children, and all the things that might lead children to distress, so health issues, things happening around the world, or current affairs. So we use those kind of trends to inform the program, and that helps us stay on trend with the children and speak their language and be able to reach them at their point of need.
Yeah, that is quite lovely. And Nolene, with that being said, I think when we look at schools or any environment nowadays, we speak oftenly about being conducive, fostering the idea of supportive environments and so forth.
Mm, mm.
How does one start off fostering that environment or creating that environment? Because, you know, you find that the teacher is stressed with, finishing the syllabus and completing what deadlines she has to complete. On the other hand, you have a student who's struggling with personal issues and work stress, and or rather school stress at that sense. How can one, or how does a person then go about creating that environment that encourages openness, that is supportive, and it's quite a very healthy and conducive environment?
Mm. From the start of it, you look at it from a macro level where
Mm,
you train that teacher to be able to identify issues of mental health in the children, to have a relationship with the children so that they can pick up when there's anomalies, and to be able to deal with it in a large setting as well as in a small or in a one-on-one setting. Secondly, the school must have an open policy for that to deal with those kind of issues, and an open resource network for children who have challenges to refer to. So first of all, it's like I said, on a macro level, it's having those policies and programs in place to cater for such issues, and also the continued training programs for the teachers to be able to deal with it. But over and above that, to be open to have programs like mine come in and support the school in what they need for their children, to be able to assess and see the points of weaknesses and then give ways to deal with them. Also, to just have an open communication policy or channel where we can openly say, okay, children are going through A, B, C, D. How do we deal with it? Parents can walk in and talk about what the children are facing, vis-a-vis where teachers can tell parents we have these issues, but also the bodies that actually deal with these things, like groups like SADC, who are set out to help children, to have an open communication channel with the schools. But over and above, like I said, being open to partner with programs like mine to come in and help your children in your spare time, to just gain those emotional intelligence skills that they need.
One thing for sure, Nolene, I've heard that, the digital space is quite, rapidly changing or evolving in that sense. But what shocked me is the idea that also the landscape of mental health is rapidly
Mm-hmm.
changing as well. And I think this is something we don't oftenly speak about or really acknowledge in that sense. How can one, or rather speaking from your experiences and expertise, how do you continue to ensure that, whatever programs you're providing and whatever workshops that you have lined up are sort of able to engage and really captivate the students and those who are partaking in the program?
So, first of all, I think we need to meet children at their point of need, meaning that we have to engage them at their level, at their point of where they need to get help. And so,
Mm,
like I said earlier, how that comes about is with those things like trends barometers, where you are able to assess what are the current challenges that children are facing, what are the statistics, what is causing problems, what is alarming at the moment, and be at that level, and then be able to speak to the child in their language, and be able to, for example, if bullying is on trend and is on the rise, I am able to come in and tackle bullying because I am aware of the issues and abreast with the current issues and the challenges that
mm,
children are facing. So it also takes a lot of research and being interested in what is
mm.
happening in the world around us. There's current affairs and then there's children affairs, and I think we overlook children affairs so much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen it in the news where, a parent will tell you, I've reported that my child. I mean, recently I saw in the news that a young student was stabbed to death. And the parent said, I
Mm,
had reported to the school that my child was being bullied. And now the parent
mm.
is not only dealing with the fact that their child was bullied, but the loss of their child in that sense. And I think this is quite imperative that, educators, even the Department of Education, tries to implement some of these programs or reaches out to individuals like yourself in assisting this plight and addressing it at its early stages. But with that being said, what advice would you give to other, education specialists who are interested in starting similar programs in their communities?
Okay, so this is a multi-pronged approach. To everybody who is interested, I think we need to have open communication channels, like I keep saying. There needs to be awareness around the issues that children battle with. There needs to be the acknowledgement, first of all, that there are big issues and children need help. Like going back to what you spoke about the child who stabbed that, or the child that was stabbed. Those for me are issues that are deep rooted, but also speak of issues like self-regulation, where children cannot regulate their emotions and they don't know a safe coping mechanism, versus an unhealthy coping mechanism. And anger and aggression would be something that they resort to because they do not know what to do. So let's look into, first of all, doing a lot of research on how we can help these children engage professional bodies that would give us proper professional tools on how to help the children get the coping techniques that they need and make them accessible. Open up that use of our social media, our technology, to have it at the fingertips for the children to be able to openly access what they need, and
Mm,
us just being human and approachable, because children are afraid to approach us with their issues, and
mm,
sometimes they do approach us and we brush them off. So let's take it seriously. Let's
mm.
be open and aggressive on taking care of our children.
Speaking on taking care of our children, Nolene, I think the question I would like to ask you right now is you said something that is quite so important, but in the ears of those who are not aware on where to start and how to start, it can sound quite a bit, impossible or out of reach. Talking about
Mm.
connecting with the children at their level, can you elaborate for us what does that look like? Because you'll find that, for instance, you're dealing with a child who is, being bullied. Okay, let's take the worst case scenario, who's, taking substance because of trying to, deal with what mental issues they stressed with, and they don't even know how to articulate themselves. How do
Mm.
I, as an educated parent or unaware parent, start training or learning and relearning ways of connecting with my child to a level and a point where they now become open to me and are more, encouraged to have certain conversation, uncomfortable conversation with me?
Okay, first of all, thank you. That's such an amazing question. First of all, I'd like you to, or parents out there, to acknowledge that their children's emotions are valid. I think that's the first step to take. Acknowledging that their emotions are valid so that we're not brushing them off or negating anything they have to say to us. Secondly, let's get onto the internet for a start and research on issues of depression. What is depression? What is anxiety? What is trauma? What does it look like? So that you can see when it's manifesting in your children. And then thirdly, be open as possible when you can with your children, to have those conversations. They're very uncomfortable, but you need to have them. And there's no perfection in parenting. So as hard as it is, it's it takes you sitting down and actually saying, okay, I'm going to hear my child tell me that you don't love me. And that's not an easy thing to hear as a parent,
Mm,
but don't quickly be defensive and say, no, I do A, B, C, D for you. Stop and think, what are my child's needs versus what I think they need? So get
mm,
that time to learn to read and understand what children go through. And remember yourself as a teenager. Remember all the challenges you face, and then try and put those against what your child says, and make it an open conversation. It's not disrespectful when your children tell you how they feel. It's not disrespectful when they act out or when they're moody. Those moods and those actions are not the enemy. They are a symptom, a sign that says this is where we need to pay attention, this is where we need healing, this is where we need to do our work. So when you approach it from that angle, that the moods and the challenges that you're facing are not the enemy, it's a child's cry for help, then it's easy for you to then step in. Also seek professional help. So look out for the psychologists, look out for those lifeline channels, look out for the SADC channels, because those give you open knowledge on what is going on with your children. Interact with other parents, ask them what's happening in your home, are you seeing this? Have support groups in the family, in the schools, and also again speak to people like me. You can reach me and I can say, okay, let's do a program ABC that you can adopt in your
mm.
home and see how it's going.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're offering yourself to larger communities, because you find that, as much as we give solutions, sometimes it's always important to have expertise like yourself on the ground, joining, communities and assisting them in addressing all things around, especially child's mental health. Because if as adults we're struggling with it, you can only imagine for a child who
What
not
the
only struggles with identity, how to articulate themselves, but also the
yeah.
biggest monster, which is, mental health issues. But moving on, I know that the work that you're doing, it doesn't come easy and it doesn't come with no costs at that. Can you share with our viewers at home, any individual who is interested in not only being part of the program, but also assisting the beautiful work that you are doing? How can they, be part of it, and how can they connect with you?
Okay, so to those that would like to donate towards the program, I'm accessible on my social media. If you send me a DM on my TikTok, which is at Education with Norleen. On my Instagram is Education with Norleen, and on my email, which is educationwithnorleen at gmail.com. And we can chat on how I need help, because yes, there is a need for help. It does come at a big cost. Training
Mm,
100 children at one go is not easy. But partnering with you guys, and moreover, just spreading the word on this issue of mental health, opening up conversations in your communities, and going onto my social media channels to look at the information that I'm putting out there, because I am putting resources out there that
mm.
can really be of use to everybody.
Mm. This has been quite a very necessary and amazing conversation. But just to close off on our conversation, Nolene, I'd like to ask from you, considering that we are concluding the month of, youth, as much as we, get to sort of reminisce on what the 1976 youth had to endure and just drawing parallels to the youth of 2025, what message would you like to leave them with, considering that our conversation was all things rounded with mental health awareness?
The mental health landscape is a dynamic one. What
Mm,
children may be battling with today may change tomorrow. Like you're saying, in 1976, it was a fight for education. We have risen above that, and we are now dealing with other issues. So, what message I would love to leave with you guys is, let's be pragmatic in our approach to life. Let's always look around for what is challenging and how we can solve it.
mm,
Mental health issues are on the rise. Children are battling with anxiety, with depression, with suicide, with self harming. A lot of issues are going on under wraps, behind closed doors, right under our noses. So let's
mm.
be present for the children. Let's put out resources for when they need help. And let's be open enough to receive them when they come to us with their issues. Their issues are big, they are valid, and they need a listening ear.
Nolene, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me and opening up space to talk about my passionate work.
Thank you so much for, having us, and really sharing your insight and experiences with us. Thank you so much. Viewers at home, that was my guest, Norleen Zulu, who is an early childhood development specialist and the driving force behind the innovative Mind Matters mental health support program. Now, it is quite important that we continue to support programs like that of Norleen, because it's not only about your home, your child. If your child or any child in the globe or even in South Africa in that matter are not well mentally, it just makes us wonder, what future are we setting up them for? I mean, what hopes are we setting them up for? And if we can help them, who can potentially do so? But for now, let's head over to an ad break. We'll see you just after that.